What happens when an entitled prince walks onto America's sharpest late-night talk show thinking he can control the narrative? You're about to find out just how badly that can go wrong. Before we get into this wild story, make sure to hit subscribe and tell me in the comments what you think about celebrities who can't handle tough questions, because this one's a train wreck from start to finish. Picture it. Stephen Colbert sits behind his desk on The Late Show, that familiar smirk playing on his face as he introduces his next guest. The audience buzzes with excitement as Prince Harry walks out, waving with that practiced royal charm we've all seen 1,000 times. Dressed in his signature casual but expensive look, he embodies the image of a reformed royal who's fully embraced American life. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, Colbert announces, his tone perfectly balancing respect and mischief. Harry settles into his chair, radiating the kind of confidence that comes from a lifetime of being told how important you are. He flashes his trademark grin, clearly expecting a friendly chat to promote his latest project and maybe lean a little on the misunderstood victim angle. "Your Royal Highness," or should I say, just Harry now, Colbert begins, raising an eyebrow in that signature way that signals trouble ahead. "Just Harry is fine, Stephen. I'm trying to live a more normal life these days," Harry replies, his polished accent carrying a practiced humility that somehow still sounds condescending. "Normal life," Colbert repeats, pausing just long enough for the tension to rise. "That's interesting, because I have to ask, how normal is it to sign multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix and Spotify while complaining about how hard your privileged life has been?" The audience gasps. Harry's smile falters for a fraction of a second before he recovers, though his eyes harden. "Well, Stephen, I think you're misunderstanding. My wife and I have faced tremendous hardship. We're just trying to tell our truth and support our family," Harry says, slipping into that familiar wounded tone. "Your truth," Colbert echoes, steepling his fingers. "That's a phrase I hear a lot these days. But whose truth are we talking about? Because some of the claims you and Meghan have made don't exactly match up with what others remember." Harry shifts slightly, his jaw tightening. "Everything we've said has been honest. We faced racism, institutional cruelty, and a media determined to destroy us." "Okay, let's talk about that," Colbert says, leaning forward with the intensity that makes even politicians squirm. "You've made some serious accusations about your family, about the monarchy. But if it was that terrible, why keep going back? Why keep taking the money, the titles, the protection?" The question hangs like a blade in the air. "That's a simplistic way of looking at a complex situation," Harry replies, his composure slipping. "You can't just walk away from family even when they're hurting you." "But you did walk away," Colbert shoots back. "You moved to California, then spent years telling everyone how awful they were. That doesn't sound like someone who couldn't leave. It sounds like someone who wanted to have their cake and eat it too." Harry's face reddens. "You don't understand what it's like to be trapped in that system, Stephen. You don't understand the pressure, the expectations, the lack of freedom." "You're right, I don't," Colbert says coolly. "I grew up middle class in South Carolina, worked my way through college, and built my career from nothing. So, no, I don't understand being born into unimaginable privilege and then complaining about how hard that was." The audience falls silent. Harry's media smile is gone, replaced by tension and barely contained frustration. "That's incredibly dismissive," Harry says tightly. "Privilege doesn't mean you can't suffer. It doesn't mean you can't be hurt by toxic family dynamics." "True," Colbert nods, "but most people who suffer don't go on international television to trash their families while still expecting to keep the benefits. Most people don't bite the hand that feeds them and then complain when it stops feeding them." Harry's eyes flare. "Are you suggesting we should have stayed silent? That we should have accepted the racism and the cruelty? I'm suggesting Colbert replies evenly, that maybe you're not the innocent victim you've spent years convincing the world you are. The words hit like a physical blow. Harry's expression shifts from shock to anger to near panic. "How dare you?" he says, his voice trembling. "How dare you question my integrity and honesty about what I went through?" Colbert doesn't flinch. "I dare because I'm a journalist, Your Highness. It's my job to ask uncomfortable questions. And right now, your reaction is telling me everything I need to know about how comfortable you are with the truth." Harry's voice cracks as he fires back. "The truth? You want the truth?" Harry's voice rose, trembling with anger. "The truth is, you people, the media vultures, you destroyed my mother, spent years trying to destroy my wife. And now you're coming after me because I had the courage to fight back. Nobody's trying to destroy you, Harry," Colbert replied calmly, his tone maddeningly even. "We're just asking for consistency. You can't claim you want privacy while doing tell-all interviews. You can't say you want to be left alone while constantly inserting yourself into every major news cycle. And you can't say you're struggling financially while living in a $16 million mansion." Harry shot to his feet, the chair scraping loudly across the floor. "You have no idea what you're talking about. None of you understand the sacrifices we've made, the courage it took to walk away from everything we knew." "Sit down." "Harry," Colbert said firmly. But Harry ignored him, pacing behind his chair like a cornered animal. "We gave up our royal duties, our security, our family relationships, everything, to protect our son and live with integrity. And all you people do is mock us and question our motives." "You gave up your royal duties," Colbert countered, his voice sharpening. "But you kept your titles. You gave up your security but demanded taxpayers still fund it. You gave up your family relationships, but you keep using them for content. See a pattern here?" Harry spun around, his face flushed with anger. "The only pattern here is the harassment and lies you people have thrown at us from day one. Meghan couldn't leave the house without being stalked, photographed or criticized for every word she said, every outfit she wore, every move she made." "Welcome to being married to a prince," Colbert shot back. "That's literally part of royal life. Catherine dealt with it. Diana dealt with it. Every royal spouse deals with it. The difference is, they didn't expect the entire institution to bend to them." "Don't you dare compare my wife to Catherine," Harry snarled, jabbing a finger toward him. Catherine had the full support of the institution. She was protected, guided, welcomed. Meghan was thrown to the wolves and blamed when she was torn apart. "Really?" Colbert leaned back, unfazed. "Because from what I remember, Catherine was mocked for her background, called Waity Katie for years, her family ridiculed, her every move dissected. But she handled it without burning down the monarchy." Harry's fists clenched. "You're twisting everything, making it sound like we're the problem when we've been the victims. Do you know what it's like to watch your wife have suicidal thoughts because of the hatred she faced?" "That's terrible, if true," Colbert said softly. "But Harry, if your wife was in that much pain, why didn't you get her help? Why didn't you remove her from that environment? Why keep taking her to public events and photo ops?" Harry froze, stunned. For a moment, he had no answer. We were trying to do our duty," he stammered, but the confidence had drained from his voice. "Your duty," Colbert repeated. So when it came to royal duty, her mental health took a back seat. But when it came to monetizing that suffering, suddenly it became the most important thing in the world. Interesting priorities. Harry's face went pale, then red, then pale again. "You're a sick man, Stephen. You're twisting a genuine mental health crisis into some kind of conspiracy theory. My wife was suffering, and I was trying to protect her the only way I knew how." "By parading her in front of cameras?" Colbert asked, eyebrow raised. "By making her do interviews about how terrible everything was? By turning her pain into a Netflix special? That's protection? We were trying to tell our story before someone else twisted it," Harry shouted, his voice echoing across the studio. "We were trying to control the narrative for once, to stop being victims." "There it is," Colbert said, sitting forward, eyes narrowing. "Control the narrative. That's what it's always been about, hasn't it? Not truth, not justice. Control. You wanted to control how people saw you, how they talked about you, how they remembered you. And when you couldn't, you burned it all down." Harry glared at him, breathing hard, fists still clenched. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold and deliberate. "You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no right to psychoanalyze me on national television. I came here for a respectful conversation about my work, my family, my future, and you've turned it into a character assassination." "I've only asked questions," Colbert replied evenly. "If you think that's a character assassination, maybe the problem isn't my questions." The words hit Harry like a slap. You could see the moment his composure shattered, the public mask slipping. "You know what your problem is, Stephen?" he said, leaning across the desk, his voice thick with contempt. "You're just another American who thinks he understands the monarchy. Duty, sacrifice, service. You sit in your comfortable little studio, making jokes about things you'll never understand." Colbert met his glare without flinching. "And you know what your problem is, Harry? You think being born into privilege makes you an expert on suffering. You think having a title makes your opinions more important than everyone else's. You think being a prince means you should never have to answer for your choices? I've answered for my choices," Harry snaps, his face now inches from Colbert's. "I've sacrificed everything, given up everything, lost everything, to protect my family and live with integrity." "What have you sacrificed? What have you given up?" "I've given up the illusion that being born special makes you a good person," Colbert replies, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "I've given up the fairy tale that a crown automatically deserves respect. I've given up believing that wealth and privilege equal wisdom and virtue." Harry straightens, his whole body trembling with rage. "You arrogant piece of trash! You have no idea what real pressure feels like, what real responsibility means. You make jokes for a living, while I've spent my entire life serving my country, serving my people." "Serving your people?" Colbert laughs, but there's no humor in it. "Harry, you abandoned your people. You took their money, their respect, their affection, and you threw it all away because you couldn't handle a few mean comments in the press. That's not service. That's selfishness." "I couldn't handle a few mean comments?" Harry's voice rises to a near hysterical pitch. "They were trying to destroy my wife. They were threatening our safety, making our lives impossible. We had no choice but to leave." "You had every choice," Colbert shoots back, standing to match Harry's energy. "You could have stayed and fought. You could have used your platform to make real change. You could have honored your grandmother's legacy instead of cashing in on it for Netflix money. But you chose the easy way out, and now you're angry that people see through your victim act." Harry's face turns crimson. His voice shakes with fury. "How dare you mention my grandmother? How dare you lecture me about her legacy when you're nothing but a two-bit comedian who mocks people better than you for ratings?" "People better than me?" Colbert's voice drops dangerously quiet. "Harry, I've built my career through hard work, talent, and dedication. I've earned every opportunity I've had. I've never expected anything to be handed to me because of who my father was. I've never thrown a tantrum when things didn't go my way." "You don't know anything about hard work," Harry spits, completely losing his composure. "You don't know anything about real pressure, real expectations, real sacrifice. You're just a pathetic little man who peaked in high school and now gets his kicks tearing down people who actually matter." The studio falls silent. Even the camera operators look stunned by the venom in his words. Colbert studies him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Actually matter," Colbert repeats slowly. "There it is, the real Harry. Not the reformed prince, not the humanitarian, not the victim. The entitled brat who thinks he's better than everyone else just because he was born into the right family. Harry's hands shake as his voice cracks. I am better than you. I'm better than all of you. I'm a prince. I'm a veteran. I'm a father. I'm someone who actually matters in this world, while you're just a glorified court jester making jokes about your betters. Security, Colbert says calmly into his earpiece, never breaking eye contact. We need security in the studio now. You're calling security on me? Harry laughs, but the sound is wild and unhinged. You're calling security on a prince of the United Kingdom? Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? What kind of power I still wield? I know exactly who I'm dealing with, Colbert says evenly. Someone who can't handle being treated like a normal person. Someone who thinks his birth certificate makes him untouchable. Someone who's so used to people bowing that he can't function when someone treats him like an equal. 3 security guards enter the studio, instantly changing the air in the room. Harry looks around wildly, realizing where he is and what he's done. This is unbelievable, he says, his voice desperate. You invite me on your show, you attack me, you humiliate me, and now you're throwing me out like some common criminal. I'm having you removed, Colbert replies, sitting back at his desk with deliberate calm, because you've shown our audience exactly who you really are. Someone who can't handle disagreement, can't handle criticism, can't handle accountability. A guard steps forward. Sir, we need you to come with us now. Harry looks around the studio one last time, eyes wild with rage and humiliation. This isn't over, Stephen. You have no idea what you've just done. Actually, Colbert says, adjusting his tie as Harry is escorted out, I think I know exactly what I've done. I've shown America what happens when entitled people get told no for the first time in their lives. As Harry's furious voice fades down the hallway, Colbert turns back to the camera, the familiar smirk returning. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Prince Harry, a man who learned today that in America, even princes have to earn their respect. The studio erupts in applause as Harry disappears through the exit. Colbert straightens his papers, takes a sip of water, and continues his monologue as if nothing unusual had happened. And that's how a prince got himself kicked off one of America's biggest talk shows. Not because he was treated unfairly, but because he couldn't handle being treated like everyone else. So, what do you think? Was Stephen Colbert right to call out Harry's entitled behavior, or did he go too far?